Hello, everyone. Welcome to this super fun video all about how to read 100 books in 1 year, how I did it, and how you can too. I will also be sharing my top 10 reads of 2020 out of the 110 books that I've read this year. I am almost done with one more, so I know I will finish it tonight and end at 111 books. But let me know in the comments if you are here, and I want to say hi. Heather is here. Hola, hello, hello. And also let me know if you hit your goal, your reading goal, whether it was a Goodreads goal or whatever kind of goal you had for reading. And also if whether you did or didn't, how many books did you read? Because this is all about reading all of the things. So I'm going to make sure that I am on here too. I want to make sure that it went live. Yeah, I worked a half day today, so that was really nice for me to be able to be on here a little bit earlier. Okay, good. Let me mute myself here. Can I do that? There we go. Okay, now I'm here. I just have so many other things up on my computer, so I didn't want to bog it down by also having my my YouTube up on here too. So Heather said I only read 35 books this year. 35 is still a lot. That's still awesome. But you're here to get some tips and tricks on how to read more. I didn't like mention this in my promo, but me reading so many books did not mean that I didn't get anything else done either. I got married. I finished a first draft. I edited a couple drafts. I did so many other things. So you can still read a lot. You can still read over 100 books while still, finding time to get writerly things done or, having a YouTube channel, things like that. So I am going to pull up my presentation here because I have a little presentation slide that will help us as we go along with the tips. Okay. And because I know quite a few people on Instagram said they had to watch the replay. So if you're watching the replay, please let me know in the comments down below. I am going to try to get through this, fairly fast so that if people are watching the replay, it won't take too long. So hopefully that is the case. Okay. So in this live stream, we'll discuss how I read 100 books in 2020, tips to read more and read faster, the platforms I use to read books, and then my top 2020 reads. Okay, so Goodreads Reading Challenge. This is the website that I use to keep track of the books that I have read, the books that I want to read, and also the books that am currently reading. So what I really like about Goodreads is that you can set a reading goal for the year. As you can see on the bottom right, I set my reading goal for 75 books, and then it tells me how much I've surpassed it. Throughout the months, it tells you how, if you're behind in your goal, by how many books you're behind, or it just if you're ahead too, which I like. I like seeing that I'm way far ahead because I always like to come out of the gates running. Okay, I mentioned that. So with the Goodreads reading challenge, or just setting a reading goal for yourself, because you don't have to use this website, is to try to set realistic goals, but you also want to challenge yourself. So when I looked back, because they have that on the Goodreads challenge, I started the Goodreads challenge when I found the website and started getting back into writing again. And therefore I started getting back into reading because I only followed a couple authors and I only read like a couple books a year, even though I loved reading. But so that year in 2015, I found Goodreads and I made my goal 24 books, which I think is 2 books a month, I believe. So that seemed pretty manageable. I ended up reading 30 of the 24 books. So I surpassed my goal. And then in 2016, I read 41 books and my goal was 26 books. The following year, because I had read 41 books, I'm like, okay, well, let me up it to 46 books. So in 2017, I ended up reading 49 books out of my 46 book goal. So, of course, naturally in 2018, I'm like, okay, I have to up it even more. So in 2018, I made my goal 48 books, but I read 63 books. And so then in 2019, I'm like, okay, I know I can at least read 60 books because I read 63 books last year. I ended up reading last year, I ended up reading 76 books, which is like amazing. And so then, of course, we come to 2020. That's why I made my goal 75 books because I had read 76 books the year previously. So I knew that I could hit that. And so, yeah, this year, even when I started, when I made this thumbnail, I think I had put 103 and then that went to 108 because actually there were a couple books on Goodreads that the date wasn't set. So if your date isn't set for the start date and the end date, if the end date isn't in 2020, it doesn't count towards the Goodreads reading challenge. So there were a couple books for some reason that I had marked as read, but it didn't have a date that I had finished it. So it wasn't counting it. So I did that and I gained like 5 books. I'm like, oh, sweet. But, next year, my goal is still going to be 75 books. I'm not going to try to top over 100 books. If I just get more, it's bonus. And so that's always the fun thing too, is that like you can read 100 books in a year, but maybe you set your goal to 50 and then you're just doing extra. So you're not putting pressure on yourself if that's too much for you. But one of the things I want to go back to about the keeping track of the books you want to read is that sometimes that's why I like Goodreads, is because sometimes like I'm not in the mood to read a certain kind of book. So I can go to my TBR, the to be read list, and find something that interests me. So, you can find like a debut book by an author, because there's a whole bunch of lists on the website, or like a sequel by your favorite author. Oh my goodness, I didn't know the sequel was out, or the third book in the series. So you can find books that way, or just like a hype book that has like a really high rating. Or if you have friends, you can see like, oh my gosh, all these people are rating them. Like, I like their taste. Like, I think I would like that book too. So that's a way to kind of get some ideas of things that you might like to read. Oh, thanks, Heather. Cute presentation. Thank you. I just realized I had put my Google Slides over the comments. So I'm like, oh, I'm not being able to see the comments. Wonderful. Okay, so how to read more / faster. This is what everyone's here for, right? Start early. That is my number one tip. So tomorrow's January 1st. For some people, it might already be, I don't know, depending on where you live, it might already be the new year. But you want to start reading as much as you can at the beginning of the year to kind of gain some momentum and motivation, because if you feel like you're behind like in the first month or two, then you might be like, oh, well, but if you kind of use the drive of starting fresh, starting, the new year, it's a good way to motivate you to hit your goal. Also, you want to have a game plan. So you want to decide when you're going to read. Is it going to be before bed? Is it going to be at the same time every day? Are you just going to like bulk read on weekends for hours? Like you want to decide that because you want to set yourself up for success. So just like, when you plan to work out, you have to decide what time you're going to work out, what workout you're going to do, all those sorts of things. Lay out your things ahead of time. So if you want to read, read at night before bed, put your book by your nightstand or, something like that, or set an alarm on your phone, to start getting ready for bed to read before bed or something like that. So that's always a good tip too. But then also you want to know like what exactly you're going to read. So are you going to be listening to an audiobook? Are you going to be reading an ebook? Are you going to read a physical book? And also look at the certain amount of books per month or week that you are looking to read. So if you're going to come up with, like I did that very first time, I want to read 24 books in a year, well, that's one book every 2 weeks or 2 books a month. And so that's a good way to kind of gauge like, you know, your progress. And then even when you're reading, so let's say, okay, I'm going to read a book every 2 weeks, and you pull the book that you want to read, you can count up how many pages it is and sit and say, okay, I need to read this many pages a day to finish my book in 2 weeks. So it's just a good way to keep yourself in check and keep yourself on track so that like the 2 weeks pass and you're like, oh my goodness, I haven't even cracked the book open, or I'm still on the first chapter. And then I also said audiobooks too, because yes, audiobooks is reading. Research has shown that it uses, when you listen to audiobooks, it uses the same part of your brain as if you were reading a physical copy of a book. The problem is that you just need to not be distracted, because that can happen to some people. I know some people say that they, they get distracted easily and they lose their place and they have to rewind back to where it was. Let me see really quick. Heather says, I noticed that if you just read it, mark it as read, it might not automatically count in the current year. If you select currently reading and then read, it'll put the date in or manually add in the date. Oh, okay. I think that's what I had done. I marked it as read because I had read it so fast. So I didn't have time to put it as currently reading. So that's good to know. And then I should treat my reading goal like Nano. Start early and strong. Yes, like Nano. That's so good. Okay, let's see what else. Find accountability buddies. This one is important. They don't have to be a reader, just sharing about your reading goal or the reading challenge with your friends or family, sharing your progress on social media, each month or as you finish a book. If you've got like a Bookstagram or a BookTube channel, then, you would be giving a review or posting an aesthetic or something with the book. So that's kind of a good motivator too, to like give you some ideas for content. And you can share it in your newsletter. People do like favorite reads of the month. So that's a good way to motivate yourself as well. But then even, finding buddies. So this is something that Heather and I have been doing. And my coworker was making fun of me because I was like, oh yeah, we're doing reading parties. So we're Skyping with each other and we're reading at the same time. She's like, are you talking? We're like, no, we're reading. And she's like, you're weird. And I'm just like, leave me alone. I'm a writer. Weird is what I do. Oh, sorry. I need water too. I have my green tea, but I also need water. And then lastly, to read more and faster, you want to mix it up with shorter books, audiobooks. Oh, I meant to do a comma, not a slash. Shorter books or shorter audiobooks. Okay, sorry. Graphic novels, web comics, poetry books, novellas, short books, and comics count. If you look on the Goodreads reading challenge, they even have web comics. So I forget what the webcomic, I can't even remember the webcomic website that I use. I am going to find it right now pretty soon. I don't even know, but there's, Heather will remember for me, where we read our webcomics, but they even count webcomics, and you can read graphic novels, you can read mangas, poetry books that are 10 pages, novellas that are 5,000 words. Those all count towards your books. Reading a book doesn't mean that you have to read this 500-page chunker. So that is another great way, excellent way to boost your reading count, especially early on too. Just bust out a couple shorter books, some comics, and that makes it fun. And then it like switches it up so that you're not bored just reading the same thing. And also you may get bored. Oh, this is the next thing, mixing up your genres, because you may get bored with, like, for example, I read a lot of fantasy, but I might get bored with fantasy. So, or I feel overwhelmed and I'm not like in the mood to read about a whole new world and get used to all this new terminology and vocabulary and magic systems and rules. And I'm like, it's too much. So I like to switch it up, and I'm like, okay, let me go read a rom-com, something that's light, that I know is going to be fun and feel good, and it's going to have a happy ending, or like a nonfiction book, a memoir, or a personal development book, or poetry, just something that's going to switch it up. And then by the time I read that, I'm like itching to go back to like fantasy or sci-fi. So that is another good way too. You don't want to stay into the same, you don't want to stay like in a rut and just stay on one path. And as writers, you shouldn't, if you are a writer, because some people who are watching this might not be a writer, they may be wanting to see how to read more. But if you are a writer, you need to read in other genres than what you write in, and that's the best way to learn. Yes, Webtoon. Thank you, Heather. I like completely forgot. So Webtoon is a great way. It's an app, and you can read webcomics, and it counts. Though usually Webtoons last like over a year, so it might not count towards your Goodreads goal for a while. All right, let's see. Okay, moving on. The beautiful. Oh, okay. I have the picture, but I didn't talk about it yet. Avoiding distractions. Like this picture that's in front of me here. So one of the big ways of trying to read more and read faster is to avoid distractions. So I've seen this pop up a lot lately, and I haven't watched them, and I haven't seen them before. So I don't know like who started them, or if they've been around and just the booktubers that I follow have just started doing it. So let me know in the comments if you have seen this and if it's old or if this is a new thing that's popping up. But I started seeing Read With Me vlogs where literally the person is, the video is just like 30 minutes and they're reading, they've got snacks, they're all cozy, and you can like read with them too, and just like play the video and like read with them. So that's what I'm doing on Skype. So I don't know why people think I'm crazy. But that's at least a new thing I was seeing. Hi, Alexis. Al says, I could read 100 zombie books. Okay, there are some exceptions. I guess I need to switch it up. That's awesome. I haven't read any zombie books in a long time, so that needs to change. Okay, other thing is using the Forest app, which is why I put this picture up. So this has been a game changer for me. With the Forest app, you set a timer from 10 minutes to 120 minutes, so 2 hours, to focus and not use your phone. So I really like this because literally this has happened to me where I've set a timer on the Forest app. I'm like, okay, I don't want to use my phone. I'm going to focus on writing or reading. We're talking about reading, so reading. I don't want to be distracted by social media or playing mobile games or whatever. And so I'll set the timer and then I'll start doing something and immediately I'm like, oh, wait, what's that thing? And I want to look something up or I remember something or whatever. And I go to check my phone and then I see the Forest app. I'm like, I like close it again. And I'm like, I don't know why I did this, but it just shows how addicted I am to my phone. So this has helped me so much to stay focused and get stuff done. It's really fun because you can buy different kinds of trees for your forest with the coins that you collect for the time that you've spent not using your phone. And you can also use your coins to plant real trees in real life, which is awesome. The premium version where you can like make friends and like plant trees together with other friends, it's only like $1.99, $1.99, like one-time fee for the premium version. So it's really simple. If you have it and you haven't added me as a friend, or you're going to get it, you can add me as a friend. You can type in my email address, which is WRITE, WRITE, HollyDavis @gmail.com, which is also linked. I think it's linked down below in the description box, but WRITEHollyDavis @gmail.com. So come be friends with me. And the last way to avoid distractions is to read during live write-ins or productivity sprints. So like with my write-ins, I call them write-ins and we do writing sprints, but they're more like productivity sprints where, and I tell people, I'm like, you can do whatever you want. So sometimes people are like, oh, I finished crocheting this thing, or I finished a puzzle, or I finished doing the dishes, or I finished my homework. So like literally people could do anything. You don't have to like write or whatever. So you can use those productivity or live streams to read, which is good because like it's fun accountability. And then there's also breaks. So I love that. Okay, next way that you can read 100 books in a year is to join a book club. And so I have to plug my book club that I launched in July 2020 called Diversity is Lit Book Club. This was another game changer for me because it added one book a month for me at least. And I'll kind of go into more detail about that. But with my book club, it was a fun way to support BIPOC authors, which is Black, Indigenous people of color. We, held each other accountable with wanting to read a book. So this is the last book I have to read is Legendborn, which is our book of the month. For December, and our live stream discussion it's already up for you guys to set your reminder, but it is on January 8th at 6:15 p.m. Central Standard Time. So go check that out. And then next month, we are going to read These Violent Delights by Chloe Gong, which I'm super excited about as well. But the reason why I liked this is that it really helped me to read more physical books, which I do enjoy. I am very much like an audiobook person as well, but joining the book club helped me read more physical books. I was supporting authors. It was just amazing. And being able to talk with friends about the books was really encouraging as well. And so if you are interested in joining, the link is down below to join the book club. We have a Facebook group where we vote on the book of the month. We're also on Instagram and Twitter. So please, please, please join us for all of the fun. I would love to see you there. Oh, yay. Sorry. I keep covering up the comments, so I'm missing it. Allie says the Forest app is the best. Yay. And Cami. Hi, Cami. I've heard of this app, but never used it before. It sounds great. Yes, I love it. And literally, I was addicted. I literally went on Reddit and found a Forest app channel. And I never go on Reddit, but I went on Reddit to find a Forest app channel because you got a certain amount of coins for getting 30 friends. And so I was like, I want my 300 coins. Then I can buy the 2,000 coin tree that I want. And it was just so motivating. But it was so much fun. So I love it. And yes, please friend me, Heather. And Diversity is Lit is the best. Yay, thank you so much. Sorry for everything just being on here all at once. But so this, the places to get books is another way to try to increase the amount of books that you read. Because like I said, if I was just reading physical books, I probably wouldn't even have 75 or 50 books to read. I would probably have less than 50 books that I've read the physical copy for, because I use all these other mediums too. So I wanted to include all the different places where you can get books, because books are expensive, they do cost money. So that could be a barrier for you. And I don't want that to stop you from being able to read a lot. So definitely, you have your local library. I'm pretty sure that most local libraries are open. I know that they were closed for some time, but I'm pretty sure that most of them are open. So definitely, if you go to your local library, you don't have to pay anything for the books that you take out. And then the Libby app is another one of my favorites, because it is like your local library, but in like an e-library card. And so they have a ton of audiobooks for free. So you kind of check out audiobooks. And so sometimes there's a hold on a book, so you can put yourself in line to be next. but it's another great way to get like lots of free audiobooks. And then Scribd is a recent one that I found. I used to be an Audible baby, but I transitioned to Scribd because Scribd, there are ebooks, audiobooks, which is unlimited for $10 a month. So you can, like you can download and listen to or read as many books as you want in the month. Whereas with Audible, it's about $15 a month and you only get one audiobook a month. But one of the things that I did use that did help me with my Goodreads reading challenge was that there were a lot of what Audible calls Audible originals, where they're free and you get like a certain amount each month, but they're usually short, like less than 3 or 4 hours. There are some that are only like 2.5 hours or something, and that can count towards your reading goal. For Scribd, I like it because when you sign up, you get the first 2 months free. I do have a link down below in the description box. If you use my code, you get 2 months free, or that link. I think it's just a link, but you get 2 months free and I get a month free. So please, if you don't have Scribd and you're interested in checking it out, you can get 2 months free and you can help me get a free month. So that's in the description box below. You can also look at your local bookstore, or supporting small businesses or Black-owned bookstores when possible. I know it's faster to get things from like Amazon or like Barnes & Noble, but sometimes there's like the Barnes & Noble exclusives with exclusive content. So that's why I try to find a balance between where I buy my books. Of course, Kindle, you can get tons of cheap ebooks, and this is always good because then you have your book handy on your phone. NetGalley is a site where book reviewers and other professional readers can read books before they're published, in like an e-galley or digital galley form. So I know you can download the e-ARCs from NetGalley. ARCs are the advanced reader copies of books, but you can download it to your Kindle, or there's a couple other platforms where you can download it to. And I believe there are some, I believe there's like a way that you can download like the e-ARC or an ebook to where you can kind of make it like an audiobook, so the app that I have on my phone is called @voice. So like the @voice. I think it's called the Voice Reader app. I don't know if it's on iTunes, iPhone. I think it is on Apple products, but like if you download an ebook, I think you can like download it as like a PDF or something to the Voice Reader app, and then you can kind of listen to it as an audiobook if you really like audiobooks. Street teams are another great way to get ARCs or e-ARCs. Authors are usually giving away their ARCs for free, either in challenges or they just give all of the people on their street team ARCs. So street teams are ways that authors can gain followers and readers and writers to help promote their book, get early reviews, spread the news on social media about their book coming out. So I was on the street team and got ARCs for Wings of Ebony by JL and The Cyborg Tinkerer by Meg Latour. So these are just great ways where you can kind of you can help out an author and then you get a benefit as well. And then lastly, this was something that I just learned last month, which helped kind of boost my my reading count towards the end of this year, was that you can also count books that you have beta read, which blew my mind because I never counted those books that I read. Because if you think about it, if you're beta reading a book for someone, you're reading a book, right? So the way that you can do that in Goodreads, and I usually just type it in the search bar or the help search bar because I always like forget where to go. So I just type how to add a book to the Goodreads database. And from there, you can add a book that you beta read. I don't like to put the name of the book or the author because that can mess up when that author's book actually gets published, whether they're self-publishing or traditional publishing. Sorry, I can't talk right now. So I like to put the book as untitled by anonymous. So I did that for all of them. And then my description of the book, I just said, book I beta read in 2020. Now you could be descriptive there, like book I beta read about, this. So like you'll know exactly, oh, that's the book that I beta read, to be a little more specific to remember. But this counts towards your Goodreads challenge because Goodreads will count rereads of books that you have already read. So, let's say you're like rereading the Harry Potter series or like ACOTAR or something, and you want to read it all again. Well, you just read all those books. Are you not going to count them just because you read them already? You still read all those books. So you should be able to count them. And so Goodreads actually does count rereads. So you should be able to add a book that you beta read. And because that is considered a reread, like when if that book comes out and it gets published, then you can add that book, read the final version, and that's technically your reread of that book. So I hope that all made sense. Let me know if it was confusing or not. But that's how hopefully I explained it correctly, but that added 7 books for me to my reading count, which is awesome. Al says, I miss Barnes and Noble. The ones in my hometown had Starbucks. Oh, yes. Wait, do you not have them anymore? Like, are they gone? That's what our Barnes and Noble too has Starbucks. I don't know. I think the one by me still has the Starbucks. But I'm just miss being able to like sit in them. I don't know if you can sit in like the cafe or not. But it is wonderful. Okay. I think I have 1 or 2 more slides of advice. So this is to read wherever and whenever you can. Okay, sorry, just wanted to make sure my phone was still showing everything okay. But so you want to bring your book. So that's why I like ebooks can work, or if you have an audiobook, it's already going to be on your phone, which is attached to your hip. But I also like to try to bring the physical book that I'm reading, because for me, it's so easy for me to just like throw up my audiobook. But for me to sit down and read my physical book, especially if it's a longer book or the physical copy, like it takes a little bit longer. So I'll try to bring that to like an appointment or a trip. Sometimes I'll bring it to work and leave it in my car, because if a patient cancels or something and I have extra time, then I can do that. Or like if you're at school and you have a lunch break, or at work, if you have some sort of breaks in between work, you can read your book. So you can find little ways to sneak in some reading time. So as far as audiobooks, I like to listen to audiobooks while I'm driving. You can do that while you're commuting. Doing chores is a big one, because like who likes to like do laundry or the dishes or do all this stuff if you're in where there's snow, shoveling. Like I listen to my audiobook like whenever I can. If this is another way too, a great way to like multitask is if you're doom scrolling on your phone, or checking social media, catching up on emails, playing a mobile game on your phone, you can be listening to your audiobook. When you're walking or exercising or stretching, even like my shower is usually pretty loud, so sometimes I don't have my phone near me playing the audiobook, but right when I turn off the shower, I start playing my audiobook, because I'm like, I have to dry off, I have to get ready. That's a little bit of time where I can listen to something. So just find those little pockets of time where you can get your, some reading in, and like it will help you immensely. And you'll be like, oh my gosh, I'm almost done with this book. Like, where did the time go? And then of course you can do it when you're cooking, getting ready in the morning, like the list goes on and on. But definitely like when I'm playing my mobile games, because I love my mobile games, at least I feel like I'm like, even though I'm doing something mindless, I can be doing something productive at the same time. So that's like the best thing. Oh, Al's in the UK. Nice. I was that weird kid who carried a book with me everywhere. Yes. That reminds me of this one time when I was coming home from physical therapy school and I was reading. I would take a bus and the L train. And so I was taking the L train and reading a book, and then it was so good. Oh, I remember, because this was in 2000 and I want to say 2010 or 11. I was reading Catching Fire. And of course, that was my favorite book out of the whole Hunger Games trilogy, which I guess now is it not called a trilogy because of the prequel, but it was Catching Fire. And then I was reading while I was walking home. And then I got a message from someone on Facebook who was like an old high school friend. And she was like, oh my gosh, I saw you on the train. Of course, your nose was still stuck in a book. And so I was just laughing because it was just so funny that she like caught me reading. And Heather says the same thing. Yeah, going to and from school. Yes, multitasking at its finest. Allie feels like Rory Gilmore when I bring books with me everywhere, but now I can read it on my Kindle app. So yay for technology, so I don't get as many weird looks. Nice. It's weird because I used to be able to read ebooks more, and then for some reason this year it was just really hard for me. I think because I started reading more physical books, I needed that page turn, man. I needed the page turn. Oh, and then also I've got my thing right here, which is kind of fuzzy, so please ignore, is if you are going to bring your book places, I recommend the book bow. Let's see if it shows here. Sorry if it's all fuzzy and dusty, but I love the book bow. It's got a zipper. It keeps everything inside. So I usually have like a notebook, my book, a highlighter if I want to highlight quotes or anything like that. And then I usually take notes while I'm reading my book for the Diversity is Lit book club. And so I have my notebook and pen in there too. So I highly recommend it because I have spilled water like in my bag or something all the time, or you stuff it in your bag and then it gets folded or the pages get crinkled. This protects it. So I love it. Yes, Catching Fire. Oh my gosh, you were totally going to guess I was reading The Hunger Games. That's amazing. I love it. Oh, that's great. Okay, so we are at the end of the tips and tricks. So do you guys have any tips and tricks to read more that I did not say? Because like these are the things that I've used to help me myself. Gosh, I really can't talk. My grammar's horrible. I can't word. I'm a writer. But if you guys have any tips or tricks, let me know. And then I'm going to go into my top 10 books of 2020, which is really exciting. I'm really excited to share these books with you. Oh, and since Allie's here, really quick, Allie, this is why I friggin' tried to read Elantris, but I started with the audiobook and I couldn't, like, there's some books where I'm like, I think I would have liked this better if I read the physical book. And I was starting to listen to Elantris and I was getting really confused with all the characters and being like, wait, I don't know exactly what's happening. And I'm like, I think this needs to be a book that I am like physically reading. So I put it on hold. So hopefully in 2021, I will start it because I've been wanting to start Brandon Sanderson. And Allie just came out with a review, I think, of Rhythm of War. I'm going to butcher it. I'm totally going to butcher it. But a Brandon Sanderson book. So I want to read it, but there's some things where I'm like, nah, I need to read this as a physical book, or this one's okay to read as an audiobook. So it's kind of weird. It takes some like trial and error to like know. I only read ebooks on my Kindle 10 HD as the screen's huge. Oh, that's awesome. These are very helpful. I'm really excited to tackle my 2021 reading challenge now. Yay, that's awesome. Allie, that makes me laugh. I can only listen to the audiobooks after I read the book because I can't keep up. Yeah, and the funny thing is it's so weird. There's some books that I can read, like, because you can increase the reading speed. So that's another tip that I didn't say, is that if you are listening to an audiobook, you can listen to like listen to it on like 1.5, 1.75x, 2x. Usually I can't read more than like 1.6x, but it's weird. Like some narrators are slower and I can read on like 1.5, and others I need to slow down and read on like 1.35, but usually 1x is way too slow. So even if an audiobook says like 5 hours and I'm reading it on like, I know I'll read it faster because it's going to be on at least like 1.25x. Yes, success. Woohoo. I did it good. Yeah, so I will have to add A Rhythm of War to my list as well. All right, so now on to the top 10 books of 2020. Okay, so these are in no particular order, except for Wings of Ebony being my favorite book that I read this year. The funny thing is that this was the 100th book that I read, and it had been my favorite one. So it was like so bittersweet. Like when I finished it and I realized, I'm like, this is my 100th book and it's my favorite one this year. I started like crying. I started like tearing up. But as you know, like I said, I got this as an arc for being on a street team. So like, look at what I would have missed if I didn't, find this author and, try to join the street team. So, definitely put yourself out there because it can, bring you to a book that like you love or something that you wouldn't have known you would like as well. So I always have little I have like little tidbits about each of the books, but I want to try to not have this be too long because I know it's already longer. But Wings of Ebony, Zuko, but Wings of Ebony, they said, is perfect for fans of Angie Thomas, Tomi Adeyemi, and The Hunger Games. Yes! And it comes out on January 26th, 2021. So less than a month. I loved it. It was amazing. Rue, the main character, you are going to love her. You're going to resonate with her. She is amazing. I felt so connected to her and she felt so real to me. Also Grown by Tiffany D. Jackson. I first discovered Tiffany D. Jackson this year. I hadn't read any of her other books. So now I'm starting to like read other books by her because they're so good. And Grown was amazing. It exposes the underbelly of a tough conversation, providing a searing examination of misogynoir, rape culture, and the vulnerability of young Black girls, essential reading for all in the Me Too era. So it was amazing. I loved it. The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V.E. Schwab. V.E. Schwab, I call her my queen because she never goes wrong with the books she writes, and Addie LaRue was no exception. I loved it. It was, the story of Addie LaRue, how, after 300 years, no one knows her name. She's been cursed to be forgotten by everyone she meets. And after 300 years, she stumbles across a young man in a hidden bookstore, and he remembers her name. Oh, love it so much. And then The Last Flight is an example of, switching up your genre and reading a book that you don't normally read. So The Last Flight is actually a book that my mom recommended to me. She doesn't read too many books each year, but she said she loved it. It's an adult psychological thriller. And I'm like, what do I read? YA. Like, I rarely read adult, but I read this book and I loved it. That's why it's in my top 10. And I don't read too many psychological thrillers as well. But it's about two women whose chance encounter provides them the opportunity to escape from their demons in the form of a dark and dangerous Freaky Friday. So it's like dual POV, two women, are at crossroads in their lives. One's trying to escape an abusive husband. The other one's trying to escape from a dangerous career. A chance encounter at the airport enables them to switch flights and adopt one another's identities. It was so tense and suspenseful. Loved it. Okay, and then the next four, You Should See Me in a Crown. This was one of the Diversity is Lit book club picks. So I loved this one, contemporary. The book was such a delight. It was, there was a Black queer lead and she was a Black queer lead without pain or trauma, like as the story, the main center of the story. It was just like she's trying to find love. So many pop culture references. You can relive the high school and prom days. It was so fun and uplifting. I loved it so much. And I think Leah Johnson is coming out with another book, Race. Not Race to the Sun. Rise to the Sun, I think, which I'm excited about. And I think that's coming out in 2021. Allegedly, so this is the first book that I read by Tiffany D. Jackson, and this was what got me into reading her books. It was another like page turner. It threw me off guard because it felt like a psychological thriller, but it wasn't like presented that way. Like it was like, oh, I just thought it was just contemporary. But Mary, I'll give a little bit of snippet of the blurb. Mary B. Addison killed a baby, allegedly. She didn't say much in the first interview with detectives, and the media filled in the only blanks that mattered. A white baby had died while under the care of a church-going Black woman and her 9-year-old daughter, who is Mary. The public convicted Mary, and the jury made it official. But did she do it? She wouldn't say. So it was so good. Please read these books. Oh yes, Heather's right. Rise to the Sun. Okay, oops. I keep like forgetting to look to the comments. I'm so sorry, you guys. John said, hi, just joined. Hello. Do you have any tips to help remember the book well? Like I often forgot things I've read, especially if there's a plethora of characters. Yes. So this is something that I want to try to do, which it really helped me when I was reading and taking notes for the book club, because I'm like, I'm going to have to talk in a discussion. I need to remember plot points. I want to think of my favorite lines and quotes, and I want to remember characters' names and things and be able to like actually have a discussion where I'm not just like not being able to like have a coherent conversation. So taking the notes really helped. So usually what I do when I'm reading, and so like you don't really even have to go very like deep into your notes. So even sometimes I'll just like write down a page number and be like a really quick note about something that happened, so that I'm not having to highlight a huge paragraph or write down a whole description of something that I want to like remember, but I can just write a quick note and have the page number to refer back to. Or even like some people like annotate, I know, and put like little bookmark tabs in the book. But I have been highlighting really good lines and then been using a notebook to write things alongside while I'm reading. Al only reads ebooks now after a trailer fire. No, I'm so sorry. Being homeless for 2 to 3 years, then moving countries. Physical are a pain. Oh my goodness. Yeah, well, I'm glad ebooks are an option for you then. Heather can't wait to read all these books. Yes, awesome. Yes, and Grown is on Scribd, and so is You Should See Me in a Crown, and I think allegedly too, and Tiger Queen. Yes, Rise to the Sun. Okay. And yes, John, you're not alone. I have a problem, and I still have a problem remembering things. Like I think I was talking about a book, and then I literally started thinking about, I was calling a character in another book that I had just read one of the characters. I'm like, wait, that was from the other book. That's another thing I started doing, is reading more than one book at the same time. Some people can do that. Some people can't. My other top read of 2020 was Tiger Queen by Annie Sullivan. She's the author of A Touch of Gold. Tiger Queen is a sweeping YA fantasy adventure that tells the story of a fierce desert princess battling to save her kingdom. Fans of Rebel of the Sands and Megan Spooner will devour this retelling of Frank Stockton's famous short story, The Lady or the Tiger. I really, really liked this book because there was a training montage. I'm like, who doesn't like training montages? There was so much character growth. I loved the romance. There were so many like desert creatures, which was very unique. So I loved that. And they answer the question that what's behind the door? Was it a lady or a tiger? So I loved that. And then special place in my heart is the first book that we read for the book club, which was A Song of Race and Ruin by Roseanne Brown. So this is the first in a fantasy duology inspired by West African folklore, in which a grieving crown princess and a desperate refugee find themselves on a collision course to murder, despite to murder each other despite their growing attraction. It's in dual POV, and I just loved the way their arcs weave together. There was very rich world building based off of Ghana lore, and there were parallels with present day Black struggles. So I absolutely loved this book, and I also can't wait for the sequel. Yay, Allie loved The Lady or the Tiger. I used to teach that short story every year. Oh, yes. And that's like what inspired Annie Sullivan to write. And I went to her book release party last year, and her English teacher, where she read the short story, was there. And she like came up with her walker, and she's like, thank you, Mrs. So-and-so for inspiring me to read. And I was like, oh, I love it. It was so sweet. I loved it. Okay, and then the final 2 books. Okay, so I put Patina here, but technically it's part of a whole a 4-book series called the Track series by Jason Reynolds. The Track series was it was recommended to me by one of my followers, and then Heather started reading it and said it was good, so then I started reading it. The first book is Ghost, and the second book is Patina, but each book is about a different track star in at the school. And I loved Ghost, the first book, but Patina really resonated with me. Like, her voice was just awesome. And Jason Reynolds' writing is so good. I have started to devour just all the books that he has written because it's just been so wonderful. And then lastly, oh, look, this is going to be the last book that I read in 2020 because I'm like 50 pages away from finishing it. So I'm going to finish it today because I'm going to stay up till midnight. Who else is going to stay up till midnight? Because it's New Year's Eve, and I'm going to finish it. So this will be my final book that I've read, but it's also been one of my favorites. This is a little bit more of a heavier read because the world building is so rich, but it makes it so believable because of how strong it is. Like, I'm like, wow, this world building is amazing. So with Legendborn, it's based on the legend of King Arthur. There's a secret society at UNC, which is University of North Carolina, and Chapel Hill. The secret society called Legendborn, and they hunt creatures down. There's mysterious teen mages called Merlins. It's so good, and I can't wait to see what's going to happen at the end. Oh, Heather says, I'll try to stay up, but that's hard for me. Yeah, me too. That's why I got my matcha green tea latte, a large. I'm like, give me the large. All right, I thought this was going to be short, but I ended up taking a lot of time. So sorry. But this was so much fun. So let me know what your top reads of 2020 were. I just had an amazing year finding so many new favorite authors. Expanding my bookshelves to include people of color because my bookshelves were really bare, and it was really just embarrassing to me, for me personally, to see, because it's already hard enough for them to get their books on the shelves and to be seen and heard. So to be reading books that are not only talking about Black struggles, but just seeing these books. Oh, sorry, that's Alexa. It just means a lot to me. So yeah. Let's see if there's anything else before we go. Let me know if you guys have any other questions or any of your favorite reads. I know there can be a lag, so I'll leave it up for a little bit more. Let me show my face. No, I think that's it. If you guys do have any more questions or want to chat any more about bookish things, you can leave me a comment down below. Oh, look. Okay, good. There's another one coming up. Okay. It's just, StreamYard is just so slow. Okay, cool. I didn't let you guys go Um, Ooh, and then this is good because now I get some good zombie books from Al. Why Zombie Apocalypse? The End of Everything by Christopher Artinian. 9 books, all free on Kindle Unlimited. Ooh, that's another thing. Kindle, you can buy Kindle books, but also if you get Kindle Unlimited, get unlimited ebooks. If you want to own all only £2 to £3, is that it? Awesome. I am going to write that down so I can partake in the goods. Um, Thank you. And then Allie says, The Poppy War, The Dragon Republic, both by R.F. Kuang. Oh, yes, that has been on my radar. I don't know if I added it to my TBR, so I will have to do that. But I've seen it everywhere. And then Rhythm of War and Fireborn by Rosaria Munda. Awesome. I am going to check all those out. Well, thank you all so much. This was so much fun. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Zuko. Yes, I'm almost done and can give you attention. Well, thank you all for joining me on the last day of 2020. I hope you all have a wonderful end to the year and a good start to 2021. Please tag me in anything online, motivational, what your Goodreads or reading goal is, any of your favorite books, because I always like finding new books. Thank you all for joining me, and I will see you all later. Bye.